Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Red Bull Arena here in Harrison, New Jersey for this USL broadcast on NewYorkRedBulls.com. I'm David Goss, joined by former New York Red Bull player Heath Pierce. And for this one, the New York Red Bulls 2, currently sitting in third place in the Eastern Conference, welcoming a USL original in the Richmond Kickers. The Richmond Kickers looking for a big road win against a young and high-energy New York Red Bull 2 team.
Yeah, they started the week on the road to Toronto. They dominated, but they couldn't get the result. And now here they are at home, playing away from home against a team who's only got one win so far at home this year. So it's going to be important for Richmond to try to use that to their advantage and get some points here today.
For a New York Red Bull 2 team on the flip side, they're looking to get out to an early start. That's been a key for them so far in games.
Yeah, they haven't given up any second half goals so far this season, so it's going to be important that they try to take that mentality and the same road mentality that they've had and try to implement that over 90 minutes today.
Two of the offensive stars that we're looking for in this one, for the Richmond side, Jason Yeisley, a guy you know very well.
Yeah, I played with Jason in Dallas, and he's a big striker. He holds up the ball well, and he's a hard worker. He's going to be that first line of press for the Kickers and hopefully be able to shape that team to where the defensive lines behind him make it predictable.
On the flip side for New York, Derek Etienne Jr. has been a star so far this season. A very young player, but a very exciting attacking talent.
Yeah, he's a player that I'm very impressed with so far this year. He's dynamic, he's creative, and he's an offensive spark for the team. And so he's going to have a good game for the team to really have a chance of getting a result.
We'll see which one's able to come out on top. We're going to head down to the field for your anthems. We'll be back with your lineups and first half action here on NewYorkRedBulls.com. And let's look at the starting lineups here. David Goss and Heath Pierce up in the booth. Richmond kickers, we said, coming in. A short road trip, but 2 back-to-back games. Matt Turner is in goal as Ryan Taylor, the Richmond native, tore his ACL, so Turner on loan from the New England Revolution. A few changes on the back line. Jalen Robinson, one to watch out for, a DC United homegrown player. Udai Imura at number 14 is one of the guys that has been scoring for this team so far. And on the bench, Ryan Ownby, another one of the big names coming into this game, who can be an option for them off the bench. On the flip side for New York, a few changes for them as well. The back line almost completely changed from last weekend. Change is something this team's used to, but they've been able to be successful. Ryan Mira, though, good to see him wearing the captain's armband. He returns after a few weeks out with an injury in which Rafi Diaz and Kyle Rainish have taken over for him. Changes along the back line, Justin Bilyeu, Aaron Long, Czech Umbai gets his first start of his career, and Conrad Pleva, the original New York Red Bull 2 player. Tyler Adams checks back in at midfield on loan from the first team. Devin Williams, Derek Etienne Jr., Junior Flemings, Brandon Allen, and Anatole Abang close it out. Some options off the bench. Stefano Bonomo got a goal last week coming into this one. And not, has to be mentioned, DC United affiliate of Richmond Kickers, New York Red Bulls 2. Of course, DC United, the big rivalry. So a little extension of that to get a little bit of the juices flowing. Although we don't expect it to be much trouble. These are two teams that would really love to get a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got both these teams looking for points today. You have Richmond coming off a midweek game where they actually dominated. They weren't able to get that result. So here they are playing against a team who actually only has one home win, but have been really strong on the road so far this year.
John Wolnick, the head coach for this New York team, did such a great job to get them in the playoffs last year. On the flip side, Lee Kalishaw for the Richmond Kickers. He's been with the team since the franchise started in 1993 after coming over from England and playing at the University of Richmond. As we get kicked off here, the Richmond Kickers and New York Red Bulls 2 facing off for the first time this season. Last year, the Richmond Kickers in black, going left to right, took a 1-0 win here at Red Bull Arena in their opening matchup of the season. Ended up winning the season series 2-1. As the man that we highlighted, Jason Easley, gets on the ball early on, and then it's knocked away. The Kickers came in here, got a 1-0 win in a similar fashion. Late game, midweek match this week. This time it's the opposite. They played midweek up in Toronto before coming down here. The other two games were wild matches between these two teams. A 4-3 win by New York in this building, and then a 4-2 win down in Richmond by the Kickers, as an early cross is played in and cleared out. Pleva beaten on the initial play and takes the man down. And our first foul of the game. Our head official in this one is Yaroslav Werrell. His assistant referees, Ryan Dos Reis and Amlikar Sikaju. And our fourth official, Miguel Lara, in this one. So we are ready to go. A little bit of sun, a little bit of clouds so far in this one. The humidity is high and the temperature is high, as turns out it might actually be summer at some point. Heath, as Anatole Abang comes down this right wing. Abang's a guy we talked about a couple weeks ago when he came down to play with this team. Every time he plays with New York Red Bulls 2, he scores, including last week on the road against Pittsburgh.
Obviously, in the last home game, he wasn't able to break that deadlock and get on the scoring chart, but I have a feeling today he's motivated. Obviously, he's coming off of a goal last match. Hopefully, we'll see him put together a pretty good performance today.
Cleared out by Richmond. New York plays it down the line. And Heath, we mentioned it a little bit in the open, but this is a New York team 3-0 on the road so far this season, which is incredible, but only one win here at home. They sit in third place in the standings without being successful at home. What is it about the road that changes things? Can they bring it into this building as well and start getting some home results?
It's a great problem to have at this point in the season, to be doing that well on the road. Yes, maybe you're not getting the results that you want at home, but playing that well on the road, that's going to pay dividends later in the season when they realize, hey, we're away from home, we're uncomfortable, and we're still grinding out results. So I think to be able to translate at home is to enter the game with that same high-energy mentality, almost that underdog spirit that you need to feel like for every minute of the game you have to earn that respect on the field.
New York seems to like being that underdog, that uphill battle that they have when they do go out and play against some other teams. This Richmond team, a much different makeup than New York. A lot of players, much more experienced, guys around 28, 29 years old, compared to a New York team that over the course of the season, each game has averaged either 21 or 22 years of age. So a very young squad, and I think that's part of the interesting matchup for us coming into this one.
If I'm the coach, Coach Wolnick, I'm excited about this. I'm putting my players against true professionals, guys who are seasoned vets, guys who have got minutes, guys who have played multiple seasons, and are really going to put the young Red Bull team under pressure. And that's an exciting thing if you're a coach, to really push your team and push their abilities.
And talk about young players. Tyler Adams, only 17 years old, and Derek Etienne, 18 years old, Etienne Jr., standing over this one. It's Etienne Jr. with the ball into the back post, and an open look, and New York can't get contact on it on that far side from Pleva.
Yeah, he missed that ball just a little bit, but it's a huge opportunity.
So New York, we know from top to bottom in this franchise, focuses very heavily on set pieces, something that they practice, a lot of ingenuity that we've seen both in MLS and here in USL, and almost getting an opportunity early on off that chance. Aaron Long gets it up the field to the feet of Etienne. As he tries to connect with Allen, and we see already early on Etienne giving freedom to float, as does Abong, and that creative attacking front 4 or 5 for this New York team has been very explosive so far this season.
They're dynamic. They're able to move around at different places. They're comfortable in the pockets. They're comfortable stretching the team over the top, and that's important. Got a replay here of the long ball over the top, and he's got such a big chance there. Just needs to get his foot on it, connect, put it on frame.
As a high-scoring defender yourself, do the eyes get big when you get that one opportunity in the game?
It depends on the player, to be honest. I was never all that comfortable in front of goal because it was so rare that you got there. And when it happened, it was almost like, I'm not supposed to be in this position right now. And you kind of panic a little bit, but that just looked like a little bit of a foot-eye coordination that was missed on that play.
Which works out well because they say finishing's about confidence. So having a lack of confidence in front of goal really works out well.
100%.
New York with the ball back on. Richmond still looking to get a little bit of possession in this game. As Adams plays off the feet of Speedy Williams. Tyler Adams, I mentioned, on the top. The first ever signing by New York Red Bull 2 as a franchise. Just 16 years old at the time. Scored as a 17-year-old last summer against Chelsea here at home. And what is one of the biggest moments, really, in the franchise's history when you look around the stadium. They have a sign-up downstairs in the offices about that game. A 4-2 win over the reigning Premier League champions by this USL squad mainly is a pretty big moment for New York Red Bulls.
And a huge moment for Tyler Adams, who was born in 1999. I mean,
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel really old, but for a guy like that to be getting these kinds of minutes and to play against a team like Chelsea at such a young age, the upside for him is really there.
Pleva puts it down the line. Brandon Allen tries to use his body a little bit. It gets knocked out off of him. Allen going up in battle. We expect most of this game against Jalen Robinson at left center back, a homegrown signing by DC United out of Wake Forest. Has come in here, played with Richmond heavily throughout last season, just getting his second start of the season here today for this squad, but started 13 games last year. Strong impact for them. One of 3 DC United players here on loan, as well as Matt Turner of the New England Revolution I mentioned in goal. Mishu up the line. Mora with the ball over the top and just out of the path of his teammate. Ryan Mira came into the season, played fantastic, got hurt in the middle of the game, had to leave just 4 games ago, actually giving up a penalty kick opportunity in which Rafi Diaz came in and saved it for him. Growing up as a player, you have friends that are goalkeepers. He's a young goalkeeper. He doesn't get a lot of playing time. He's frustrated. But at the same time, goalies play for so much longer. How tough is it for young goalies, ones that you've interacted with, to be patient and wait for their opportunity?
Well, I was actually here when Luis Robles came in. Ryan Mera had season-ending injury, and he was playing really well at that time, and it was injuries that forced him out. And since then, Luis has played every single game, and it's a frustrating thing for a goalkeeper like Ryan Mera, who was incredible, and in my opinion, one of the best goalkeepers in the league that year. So it's just about being patient. Obviously, you talk about goalkeepers have a longer career. They have more longevity. I think that's what they rely on, knowing that my chance will come. And if I'm 28, 29 even, when I'm getting my first real string or run of games, I have another 10 years potentially to really hit that potential and hit that stride.
And as Etienne's pass runs long, for example, Luis Robles. He's a guy that really got his shot when he was 29, and now he's taking advantage. How tough is it, though, when you talk to players like that? I mean, you said you played with Mira. He had a great season. Everyone thought he was one of the best draft picks of that year, and then all of a sudden he sits on the bench for 3 years just because there's no substitutions in goalie.
Yeah, there's no room for error, and to be honest, when that position, Luis stepped in and took that spot, and that can be a really frustrating moment for a goalkeeper like Ryan. But you've seen that he's bounced back. He's a good professional. He trains hard every day, and he's waiting for his chances. And these are moments where he can get those reps and stay fresh. In the case that if he does get that first team start, he'll be ready. He'll be prepared to take that or challenge for that starting spot against a guy who plays every game.
Out on loan last year with NYCFC. Back here, had a fantastic start to the season before another unfortunate injury, but he has been able to bounce back. Rafi Diaz put out 2 shutouts while Mira was on the bench, and something that a lot of fans are excited about. I think a lot of Red Bulls fans, the opportunity to watch him play some extended minutes really for the first time. He had 5 or 6 starts last year before Santiago Castaño handled most of the starts throughout the rest of the season last year. It's about 10 minutes into this one. The sun's shining. Thermometer has really been pushed up on this one as Umbai plays it back. New York's had to deal with a lot of changes, but especially on that back line. And we mentioned the success of the second half for this team and not giving up goals as Bilyu cuts forward, cuts into fine space and plays it wide. And you got to think some of that, Heath, is down to the fact that when they start games, at times it's a different lineup than they've ever played. And we've seen guys maybe playing, a guy like Aaron Long played at right back and center back. Bilyu's played at left back and right back. So clearly over those 45 minutes, whatever it gels, seems to work out really strong.
They go into the second half seemingly prepared and more in unison together, whereas the first half, like you said, you have a whole new team. It's feeling each other out, knowing where to cover for your guy, knowing where his strengths and weaknesses are when maybe you haven't trained with him all week.
Don't forget to keep up to date with USL all season long by visiting new USLsoccer.com for everything you need to know about USL and its 29 teams. Of course, you can stick to NewYorkRedBulls.com for all of your New York Red Bull 2 updates as Mira comes sliding out. I'd like to give a shout out to Once a Metro as well. Great coverage of New York Red Bulls too, as does Empire Soccer. Okay, I just shouted it out. Everyone, I hope everyone feels loved as Mira makes that save. The New York native, Ryan Mira, Fordham graduate as well. Taking plenty of space here. Heath, maybe an opportunity to get in on goal for the goalkeeper as well.
His big body.
As he blasts it long. These 2 teams still settling in. New York dominating possession early on. Flemings going to find an opening on the wide side. Flemings, 3 assists so far this season, tied for the USL lead as he floats that one over the top. In this league, we talked about, I mentioned 29 teams. So much expansion. The league's changing heavily, but one of the incredible signs for it is 2 guys on New York, in Derek Etienne and Junior Flemings, both put on preliminary rosters for the Copa America coming up. And I think that's as great a testament as you can say to a league that there's that quality of international players in the competition.
It's a huge success story so far. And obviously it's the preliminary roster. We don't know if they'll actually go to the tournament, but to be considered, it speaks volumes about the quality and the development that's taking place in the league.
And we've seen Haitian, Jamaican internationals, as well as other countries' internationals across the league over the last few years. Flemings coming in his first season with New York Red Bulls too. I mentioned 3 assists, tied for the league lead. And you can see why. He's so good at finding space against his defender. And outside of that last cross, has been very accurate with his service throughout the season. Richmond pressing high. Try and turn the ball over. They finally do. Richmond coming in the away blacks, New York in the home white tops with red shorts. Looks like we have an illegal throw in or a second ball on the field. Always entertaining. So Pleva will go over and take care of that. New York Red Bulls too getting a victory in their last game on the road against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They gave up a goal in the 10th minute of that one, Heath, but bounced back and got 3 goals themselves to get the win. And goes a little bit maybe to what you were saying of coming out so strong in second halves, outscoring opponents 7-0 now over the course of the season.
It's never easy to have an always changing lineup, and it does, like you said, it does take time to gel and really find a rhythm with each other and say, okay, you know, we all play the same game, but now I know where you're going to be. And then that second half, you've kind of felt it out for 45 minutes. They've been so strong, but they need to try to find a way to do that over 90 minutes.
The other thing we have to mention, Carl, we met red carded in that game, and as well as Romeo Parks coming off after that. He was kicked in the back by Parks, taken off on a stretcher. He is doing much better. We know he will be suspended for 3 games, but Heath, you see something like that and you're a teammate. It was late in that game. They were able to finish out. But how does that mentally affect you over the course of the week or the next few games, watching someone get injured like that during a game?
You never want to see a player on your team get injured, but the reaction from the fans, from the staff, from the players, not just in the locker room, I'm sure, but also across the public forums was great and showing support for Carl we met. And we know he'll come back stronger for it. He's a guy that I played with in Montreal, and he's a tough, hard-nosed defender. So, but you never want to see those types of things be brought into the game. You never want to see those types of almost personal attacks be a part of this game.
Yeah, I think it was something when it happened and people were watching. I don't think it's something anyone's ever really seen before. It's definitely outside the course of the game, and Parks suspended for the year and has been dropped by the Riverhounds. Pittsburgh will be coming in here to New York soon on May 21st to face off against New York once again. Those two teams played last year in the playoffs, with New York hosting and getting their first ever playoff win. It was the collision of heads, and now the trainers will be called on. 15 minutes into this one so far, Heath, New York's dominated the ball. They've had 1 or 2 half chances. You think Richmond will be okay with let New York get the energy out early as long as we're 0-0, or will they hope to maybe get a little bit more possession over the next 15 minutes of this first half?
I think the Red Bulls have settled in a lot quicker than Pittsburgh has, but to be honest, I think they're okay right now. There's not really been a major threat. There's been a few half chances and poor quality on those, getting a touch or putting in good service. But I think all in all, the Red Bulls have started out this game a little more settled and a little more on the front foot.
Don't forget to become a fan of the USL on Facebook for exclusive league news and interactive content. It's a great way to follow the league as more and more teams coming up. They think FC Cincinnati will break another attendance record, which they've now set 3 weeks for 3 home games in a row, hosting Pittsburgh as well in that one. We know Louisville City and St. Louis FC renew their rivalry today as well. And, of course, new national broadcasts on ESPN3 that you can get updates on at uslsoccer.com or on Facebook. So it'll be a free kick to Richmond. Braden Troyer out of the University of South Carolina actually played a little time with the Charleston Battery Academy, now in his 2nd year with Richmond. Richmond gets the turnover, and the foul finally called there on the edge of the box. By a very young player, and it looked like maybe had almost gotten tricked by the guile of Yeasley there.
Yeah, he cut across the front of him, was able to, fortunately, ref blew the whistle and drew a foul, but Yeasley's a clever player, and for these young center backs, they need to be able to go through those reps and those experiences against a guy like Yeasley, who's had MLS experience before, has been playing professionally for 6 to 8 years now and has a lot of experience.
Adams and Speedy Williams will pull the strings at the base of the midfield here this afternoon, trying to find an opening. Now maybe an opportunity to counter for the kickers. Tackle made by Bilyeu and called a legal one. It was Luis Fernando out there on the wing, who's had a quiet game so far. It looks like Imura has dropped in to the central spot just behind Yaisley, with Miguel Aguilar, one of the big names on the roster today, on loan, the first-round draft pick by DC United last year. Allen with the spot of space, taken away by Asante. And Asante rode down from behind and fouled. You said Richmond, they're good. They look very composed in their numbers right now. What does New York have to do to try and break this down?
It's difficult to say what it's really going to take to break them down at the moment. I think Richmond has settled in a little bit more to the game in the last few minutes. And like you said, they do seem comfortable behind the ball. Yes, Red Bulls are controlling the possession, but they're not really creating any chances out of it. So I think they're going to need to stretch the team long a few times, get in behind them and start to open up those pockets underneath. If they can start drawing defenders out of their comfort zones and pulling them out wide, they should start to be able to find those combinations underneath that back line and hopefully get a few chances out of it.
Looks like an early substitution made by the Richmond kickers. Fred Owusu-Sekiri coming off the bench. Looks like he comes on for Michael Callahan. So a short 20-minute spell for Callahan. Must be some sort of injury. We'll try and get you an update at halftime if we can. And Owusu-Sekiri, a very experienced player, coming in place of him in that midfield. Last year started 22 games for this squad. This year hasn't started a game yet, but has now appeared in all 9 matches for the kickers. This one will go in favor of Richmond. They'll take the opportunity to push a couple numbers up. David Goss and Heath Pierce here on NewYorkRedBulls.com. New York Red Bulls 2 coming to this one at 4-1 and 2. Hosting the Richmond Kickers at 4-3 and 1. New York could at least momentarily move into first place in the Eastern Conference with a victory here today. As this one over the top towards Yaisley. Plays it off to the feet of Aguilar with the shot and drilled off the outside of the net. First flash of the attack though for Richmond in this one.
Yeah, if I'm Conrad Plyva there, I'm trying to push him wide. He does a good job of pushing him wide, but at that last second, he's got to close that gap and not be able to let him get that shot off.
And this is a player in Aguilar who has played off and on with Richmond, as well as playing about 15 games in his career so far with DC United. Got 4 starts last year, 6 appearances this year. When you come into a game like this where maybe you don't know that guy you're going up against, how do you go about figuring out how to defend him in those moments?
You just got to make him uncomfortable. You have to be the one that puts the pressure on him, forces him to put his head down, doesn't allow him to really find his rhythm or his form.
Mishu gets to the end line, gets the cross in, knocked down, a battle in the box, still alive for Richmond. Aguilar on the ball once again, and he floats this one in. And easily handled by Bilyeu in the end. So Richmond now turning on the attack, but New York looking to counter the other way. A Bong one-on-one. He's got Jalen Robinson on his hip. Robinson's able to slow him down and make the tackle. And what a defensive play there from the young man out of Wake Forest. End-to-end stuff on this one as these two teams start to get their feet wet. Richmond coming in looking for their first road victory of the season. New York trying to extend their one-game winning streak, I guess you could call it, to 2.
It's a streak.
It's a streak. Hey, I would take it. Don't forget to follow at USL on Twitter to keep up with all of the live action during the 2016 season. It's at USL on Twitter, at New York Red Bulls as well, and at New York Red Bull 2, NYRB2, for all of your news on those 2 teams. You got to be impressed there, though. Anatola Bong, a guy scored 5 or 6 goals last year, has 2 already this season. One-on-one there, and Robinson able to stand him up.
It's a great defensive play by Robinson, but At the same time, Bong takes a little bit too many touches. He gets a chance to go at him. He keeps dribbling down the line. And then when he takes that bad touch, he's got to think, okay, this space is killed. Turn around, bring it back, secure the ball, allow my team to now push up underneath and maintain possession.
New York takes it quickly, deflected on the cross, and it's headed away by Roberts. Eventually banged off of Bilyeu. Justin Bilyeu out of SIU Edwardsville. Taken in this year's Super Draft by New York Red Bulls. Made his MLS debut 2 weeks ago against FC Dallas here at Red Bull Arena and has become a consistent player for this New York Red Bulls 2 squad. Playing time at right back and left back. You're on the back line. Is it a difference, left back, right back, if you're a guy who can play both center and fullback? I mean, how much of an adjustment is it in game as you move around those positions?
The outside backs positions are quite different if you're strongly one-footed, right? So on the right side, I played right back as a left-footed player before, and you see the game differently. You're facing a different direction. You're facing inside. You always have that ability to drive inside with the ball, but at the same time, if teams can figure that out, they force you to your right foot, and you get a little bit uncomfortable with that. But getting those reps in both those positions is only going to make Bilyeu a better player.
And you were so two-footed that it was never an issue.
Yeah. My right foot was mostly for pressing the gas pedal in the car. That's all I ever used it for.
That's a good one. Never heard that one before. New York Red Bull 2. Going to turn the screws once again. Richmond gave us a flash. 2 great opportunities. As the push in the back there from Mishu, and he's upset with the call. But it seems to be the game plan for Richmond. Sit back comfortably in numbers, keep the ball in front of them, and try and get an opportunity on the counter. Set pieces when they can. As Speedy Williams now joins the attack. And Imura starting at forward in this one. Leading scorer on the team comes all the way back to his own end line and makes the tackle. Shows you a little bit the mentality right now for this kicker squad.
Yeah, they're playing the second game on the road in 1 week, and they haven't been successful on the road yet. So they're kind of sitting in their blocks, letting the team come to them, and hopefully trying to counterattack or spring some sort of offense off of a few poor passes from the Red Bulls. But a great track back by the striker there to make a big play for the team.
Turner with the goal kick. As I mentioned, Richmond native Ryan Taylor started this season after starting 13 games last year. Tore his ACL. Was immediately replaced in that game by Sawyer Griffin, who's just 17 years old, committed to go to Davidson for next year. One of the backup goalkeepers on this team. And now Turner has been brought in. Last year, Travis Wara started 12 games for this Richmond team. Last night, he started in goal in a 2-0 victory against New York Red Bulls in Major League Soccer for DC United. Of course, our fearless leader, Scott Sandelote, was at that game, and therefore he's watching on the stream now and mentioned that he didn't feel any love. So we extend that love to him as well as to all of the people watching. We appreciate you. Anyone in the River City Red Army down in Richmond that's possibly watching this game, maybe at the Capitol Ale House, we welcome you as well. Feel free to tweet NYVRIC at all. If you want to send us any comments, maybe we'll answer some questions if there are any coming up later in the game. Don't forget as well that Nike is a proud partner of the USL, so you can follow at Nike Soccer on Twitter for all the latest Nike soccer information. It's going to be a summer of soccer for sure here in the U.S. USL action gearing up. U.S. Open Cup for these USL teams is coming around the corner. This week, Richmond hosting Aroma Cafe FC at home. What's the name?
It's a great name.
It's a great name. In 100 years, when they're one of the great clubs in the world, they have 17 world championships or whatever at that point, because it'll all be one league. People will be like, where did that name come from? And we still don't know. But it's a great name. Richmond trying to make a U.S. Open Cup run. Charlotte Independence made a late run last year, got into the quarterfinals. New York Red Bulls 2 won't be eligible to play in the Open Cup. Their U23 PDL squad fell to New York Pan Cyprian Freedom earlier this week in their USL matchup, in their US Open Cup matchup. Miguel Aguilar had 2 starts in the Open Cup for DC United last year. He gets called for that foul, and it'll be Derek Etienne Jr. to take this one. All the big bodies in the box now for New York. Etienne Jr. whips it in to the far post towards Umbai, knocked down, and Allen's first touch is a little too long and cleared by Troyer. New York keeping the numbers high. Adams has time to look up and pick his spot. It bounces over everyone down the wing, but the foul is called. Brandon Allen just a little bit too much pushing. This Richmond Kickers team defending, a lot of pressure, but very comfortable.
They don't seem to be struggling all that much. They don't have the ball. They're not creating all that many offensive opportunities, but on the defensive end, they're sitting in their blocks, they're patient, and they seem very comfortable in this position.
Turn it, take it. Now, if you're New York, you know they're coming off a midweek game on the road. They've traveled straight from Toronto to here. They fell in that game, and it was a game they had to work hard for 90 minutes to try and get back into it, trailing to a late goal. You have the ball a lot of this game. It doesn't feel like they're moving them enough or making them tired in any way that they could potentially get some help later in the game. As a bong slips, Roberts takes it over, but a free kick will go in favor of New York.
If you are the Red Bulls in that position, you want to start to stretch those defenses. You want to test their legs. They've been on the road the whole week. You don't know what kind of travel conditions they've had, and that can take a toll when it starts to hit that 45th, 60th, 70th minute, and you want to wear them down and force them to really work their legs out. So take them into the corner, run over the top, get underneath, and really mix things up and really test that back line.
A free kick will come here again for New York. Hugh Roberts, one of the guys that played 90 minutes midweek, as Etienne Jr. floats this one to the far post. It's headed away by Roberts once again. He's had a lot of work to do so far this afternoon. Adams switches the field. Allen's onside. Picks his head up, trying to find an opening. Gets it to the feet of Flemings, and his shot is blocked. Hugh Roberts, once again, is the man. Been involved in almost everything so far. Roberts clears out once again. New York looking to close and keep this high pressure on. Speedy Williams in a battle, as is Long. Aaron Long gets dragged down, no call made, and now it will go in favor of him as he looks to play quickly. Fernando knocks it away. Now, I'm not a referee, so I don't know the rules exactly, but I think if you make the attempt, even if you don't ask for 10 yards, I think it's still a yellow card.
Should be, but I actually think that he was saying that they didn't play the free kick from the right position on that play. He was just a few steps off, which is another point of argument if I'm a player.
Etienne Jr. floats it into the far post. It's knocked down, but just wide. You don't think it should matter if it's at the exact spot?
I mean, it was pretty close. When you're a player and you want to get that quick restart going and that guy is standing right in front of you, you set it down another place and you try to play.
This is why I keep you here, though. I need someone to keep me honest as much as possible. 30 minutes into this one. Just 15 minutes left in this first half. New York Red Bulls 2 hosting the Richmond Kickers here at Red Bull Arena. And on NewYorkRedBulls.com, David Goss and Heath Pierce. A little bit of news made over the last week for this New York Red Bull 2 squad, as they will now host every remaining game of the 2016 schedule here at Red Bull Arena. So log on to NewYorkRedBulls.com for your tickets. But they will be moving next year in 2017. They'll move to the Pitzer Soccer Complex at Montclair State University. It'll be their home for 2017 and beyond, as well as for the PDL squad and potentially U.S. Open Cup games. So they will be doing some renovations to the Pitzer Soccer Complex, and hopefully it'll be another beautiful facility and arena here in New Jersey for the professional game. Fleming's doing work out there on the corner, gets by one and able to earn a corner kick. So another set piece opportunity here for New York.
It was a great distribution from Ryan Mayer from the goal to start that counterattack, gets down to the corner, draws a corner kick, and like you said at the start of the broadcast, Red Bull's been working on free kicks and set pieces a lot, and these are real opportunities for them to create scoring chances.
Etienne Jr. tying his shoe. Is he really, or is this something secret? We're about to find out. Out there on that far right corner, he's taken pretty long. I feel like he might actually be tying his shoe.
Well, there's also nobody around him, so I don't think they're pulling any sort of.
Etienne Jr. with the service. Floated into the middle of the box. Allen goes up, gets a head to it, and a foul goes against Brandon Allen in favor of Richmond. As Hugh Roberts gives a hand to our head official. Do you agree on that one, Heath? As you see there, YouTube is your location we are on right now, as well as for all of your USL matches throughout the season.
That call could have gone either way. Obviously, in the box, there's always contact. There's always pushing, shoving. Allen got to the ball first. It looked like he was clipped, but at the same time, maybe he was a little too aggressive to get into that position.
As the goal kick's taken, we see the replay here. Tough to see from that angle. It was between Allen and Braden Troyer. Long, waiting a little bit on that ball. He gets clattered into from behind by Asante. And the foul will go in favor of New York. Not chippy, but physical match so far. A number of fouls going both ways, mainly in favor of New York so far, as Long now will tie his shoe. Seattle Sounders draft pick back in 2014 has bounced around over the last few years. Now here with New York.
But that goes back again to what we said before, is you have a young Red Bull squad playing against a team of experienced men. Big men that know the physical side of the game, and they're not going to just roll over. They're going to force you to outplay them and outwork them, and you can see the game's gotten a little physical in this first half.
New York came up to take that one, and Long took it quickly. Etienne brings it down. Williams almost losing possession, able to keep it under control. Mumbai now on the ball, driving forward from center back. Allen with the layoff to Abong. Abong space and shoots. Hits the crossbar, but he was offside originally. Gorgeous buildup, though, from New York. Unfortunately, Abong not able to keep himself onside.
It's a great job of Mbaye driving up the field with the ball, forcing them to have to pull a defense out.
And you could see Abong there, just a step past Roberts when he first received it. Talk about, though, the vision of Allen. That layoff, just a little touch, didn't turn around, but trusted and knew where Abong was, and just a millisecond away from connecting on that one.
It's a great little play, and Abong to have that awareness that if he was onside, take a touch, look up, set yourself up, and have a go.
And he's a kid that we know he has a nose for goal. Dean Jr. and Adams chasing here to try and turn it over. Finally falls to Flemings. Fleming's able to get by the first defender, driving up the field. He's got options around him. Abong leaves it for Etienne Jr. And Etienne Jr. gets it tackled away from him by Fernando. Lightning quick there in the counterattack for this Red Bull 2 squad.
The Red Bulls are starting to get on the same page on the offensive side of the game, and they're starting to play much more dynamically and forcing the defense to start making plays.
And that'll be Etienne on the service once again. A foul called in the middle of the box on the last corner kick. Can New York do better here? And Turner comes out, takes it kind of easily, throws it long for Aguilar. Miguel Aguilar looking to get by Adams on the first touch, and Tyler Adams calmly directs it out of bounds. A lot of set pieces for New York so far in this game. Heath, has the service been good enough for you? Is it just that they haven't connected, or would you expect more?
It's getting better. It seems like Etienne Jr. is starting to really find his form in terms of his ability to cross the ball, to put in set pieces in dangerous positions. And now it's just going to be a matter of getting on the same page as that guy in the box and that aggression to be able to finish it off.
Fernando out wide, Abong down on the field on the far side. There, that official choosing to play on. Richmond now, a chance to get some bodies into the other side of the field. But finally, the referee does stop play. Jalen Robinson not quite happy with that, mainly because he didn't do anything, so he's a little frustrated. Check out @USL Soccer on Instagram to see match highlights and action shots from games around the USL. It's @USL on Instagram. Anatol Abong is the one who's down on the far side of the field, holding his shoulder in this one. Getting his third start of the season. He's got 2 goals already this year. Last year in 6 starts, 4 goals, including the first ever goal in NYRB2 history. Had a strong season in Major League Soccer as well last year with 4 goals and an assist. Stefano Bonomo warming up now. Scored last week in Pittsburgh. 2 weeks ago, came in here off the bench at halftime playing center back. Has played forward his entire professional career. John Wolyniec taking a chance there. He's got good size. Played comfortably at center back and now back at forward.
Typically with a guy like that who spent most of his, at least youth career, playing up top, they're comfortable on the ball. They see the game the right way. And if you can get that defensive mindset instilled into them, you can convert them into a high-quality center back who's comfortable on the ball, can build up, which is the exact type of system that the Red Bulls first team try to play on a weekly basis.
You also, at times, I think, in at least the youth levels, you have, like in baseball, the shortstop's just the best player on the team. A lot of guys play up top because they're the best player on the team, even though maybe at the highest level, that's not where they're fully comfortable. It's just at what point in your career do you finally make the shift?
You want to make that shift as early as possible.
Right.
You want to get that guy as many reps where you see him being able to make it at the highest level.
As Aguilar gets the ball taken off his foot, I think that's a large part of the new academy system we see being built. You talk about Griffin Sawyer at Richmond Kickers, hasn't gone to college yet, has already been with the professional soccer team for 2 years, and of course Tyler Adams and Etienne Jr. Adams was a fullback with the US U17 team in qualifying, but has made the shift to the holding midfield position where it looks like he could be very successful over the course of his career, already getting a start in Major League Soccer this year. Troyer charging forward from the left back position, looks to get into the feet of Aguilar and taken by Mira. He's had a quiet afternoon so far. 40 minutes played here at Red Bull Arena. New York Red Bull 2 in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference standings. Trying to bring that great road form back here to their home arena. And the Richmond Kickers looking for their first road victory of the season. 3 last year. Richmond finishing the 2015 season 6th place in the Eastern Conference. That's how you say that word. In the playoffs, falling to the Charleston Battery in the first round. Once again, coached by Lee Kalishaw, as they have been over the course of the last 16 years. That's a lot of time. That's almost the age of Tyler Adams.
It really is, and it's rare that you see a coach or a manager hold a position that long. There's very few around the world that you see at any level holding down a position in a club for that many years. It shows that their belief in the way that he wants to approach the game. Great little make there.
Bilyeu picks up a couple cookies as he makes a run up the field. And Allen trying to find some space on the top of the box. Abong puts the cross in, but it's cut out at the near post. And now a chance for the Kickers to potentially counter. Asante pushes it wide to Imura. The long switch is on, and he finds the feet of Aguilar. Aguilar down the middle of the field towards Yeisley. The shot taken, blocked, but offside called. A clinical counterattack there from Richmond. You see the start of the play for New York on the other end. That Meg for Bilyeu, but a clinical counterattack from Richmond and just inches away from opening up this game and taking a 1-0 lead.
That's one of the huge dangers of attacking with numbers and building up in possession. As you start to send more and more guys forward with Richmond sitting back deeper and deeper, you have to keep pushing more and more numbers into that attack. And if you do have a bad turnover, it leaves you very vulnerable in the back. But you could see there the Red Bulls had a great response to that turnover, getting as many numbers behind the ball as quickly as possible. Fortunately, they were bailed out by an offside call.
A yellow card attributed to Samuel Asante, the holding midfielder out of Ghana for this Richmond Kickers squad. Spent a year with Charlotte Eagles before ending up with the Kickers. Played his college ball in the Richmond area, as many of these players do, whether it's for VCU or George Mason or the University of Richmond, like Lee Kalishaw did in his career. an opportunity for those players to stick around their home area. And one of the things I noticed, we talked about Lee Kalishaw and his time there. There are 4 or 5 players on this team that have spent years with this team. 2 of them, in Michael Callahan and Sasha Gares, who both play on this team and are assistant coaches under Lee Kalishaw. 2 other guys in William Yombi and Fred Owusu-Sikiri, who are youth coaches in their academy. So it shows you maybe a little bit of that family, that clearly it's not just that Kalishaw's been successful. There's a level of admiration from his players that they want to stick around.
They're playing under a coach that they obviously like. They're staying in a city that they obviously like. And now having the opportunity to take what they've learned at this level and implement it as assistant coaches in this team on some of the youth players in their systems shows you that they do have a direction of this club.
Williams floats it to the far post, and a small touch there from Mishu to get it past Etienne Jr. and out to the left side. Etienne Jr., just a young player early on in his career. Look back one day, like some of these Richmond Kickers players on the long times that he played. But you can come out to Red Bull Arena and see him play in his next matchup. It's Saturday, May 28th against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. This match is the second half of a doubleheader. TFC versus New York Red Bull at 7 p.m. and then Pittsburgh Riverhounds versus New York Red Bull 2 at 10 p.m. both right here at Red Bull Arena. As Bilyeu goes down that left side. For tickets and more info, log on to NewYorkRedBulls.com or call 1-877-727-6223 today. It's 1-877-727-6223 today. Conrad Plava doesn't like to wait for me to finish reading out our ticket ad as he bangs that one from 35 yards out off the post.
It's another way to go about drawing the team out is show that you have an ability to finish from deep. You start to draw those defenders out further and further, which creates more space for other players on the field. But what a great hit. Unfortunately, Richmond is saved by the post.
So the Richmond Kickers coming in here off a midweek road game at TFC 2. Falling on a late goal, 1-0 in that one as we enter our 2 minutes of minimum stoppage time of this first half. Richmond, they haven't had much of the possession in this one. They've looked very comfortable so far in this 0-0 game. Looks like Tyler Adams might pick up a yellow card or just a talking to. Head official Worrell coming over to mention to him that you're not allowed to stick your hand up in front of a throw-in. Mishu throws it in. It goes off of goes off of Yeisley and out for the goal kick as we enter second minute here of stoppage time. Coach Wolenek has brought this team in here. A lot of changeover on the back line. A shutout in the first half. What can he do to get the offense moving in the second half?
Just keep doing what they're doing, to be honest. They've found a rhythm. They're starting to connect passes. They're starting to be more dangerous and really find each other in those right positions up the field. That's forcing Richmond Kickers to have to make some pretty decent defensive stops.
Mishu heads this one out wide. And on the flip side for Richmond, do you say more of the same here in the second half as Etienne Jr. tries to open them up in the last few seconds of the first half? Allen's shot is blocked. Williams looking to keep it alive. Flemings knocks it back. Speedy Williams with the shot, and he blasts it over. And I think maybe right there, Heath, the story of the game for this New York Red Bulls 2 team, creating good chances, just not that final quality.
You're right. They don't have that final quality, but they are showing that willingness to keep pushing forward and keep leaning on this Richmond squad that's clearly starting to drop deeper and deeper and trust themselves less and less. And I think if they can come out in the second half with that same exact mentality, I think we're going to see a goal pretty early on.
Speedy Williams upset with himself there off that shot. We have seen him take some incredible long strikes on this team over the last year that he's been a part of it from 35, 40 yards out. So maybe just a little bit too close on that opportunity, but he knows it was as good a look as he's going to get as we get the final whistle of our first half. So New York Red Bulls 2 hosting the Richmond Kickers. Here in this one, Richmond Kickers, a 2-1 advantage over the course of the series last season, and right now going in their favor. 0-0 as we enter the halftime locker room. We'll be back here on NewYorkRedBulls.com with all of your first half analysis and highlights and second half action in just a few minutes.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Welcome back to NewYorkRedBulls.com. David Gotts and Heath Pierce on this one as the Richmond Kickers at 4-1-1 on the season.
See, it's offsides at the end of the day, but to have that willingness to take shots.
And this was the final highlight of the first half. Conrad Pleva blasting it from 35 out, trying to find a way to beat that back line for Richmond, who's been composed, sitting at times 11 or 10 behind the ball in their numbers, looking very comfortable, keeping everything pretty much in front of them, and look like they're on their way right now to a potential road shutout.
The Red Bull 2s haven't been able to break that deadlock yet, but they're doing all the right things, and I think if they can keep that up, they're forcing the teams to be honest and forcing them to draw them out and play against them. The deeper that they sit back, the longer they go, the better chance they're going to have of scoring a goal.
New York Red Bull 2 will start on the ball, and Heath, if you need some numbers to really gauge that first half at all, 5-2 I said in shots for New York against Richmond, 0 saves though for Matt Turner in goal for Richmond, and 1 for Ryan Mira. So it's been effective when they've countered for the kickers, and New York Red Bull 2, that final product just has not been good enough so far throughout halfway through this game.
They haven't had the chance to really test Matt Turner in goal. Well, they have had the chances, but they haven't executed those chances in a way that are forcing to test his abilities. So hopefully in the second half, Red Bull 2s will come out stronger and really test him and see what he's made of.
Etienne Jr. finding some space, gets it to the feet of Speedy Williams. Played wide to the feet of Flemings, but he's called offside on that near touchline. Junior Flemings, 3 assists so far in his early New York Red Bull 2 career. And looking to get maybe number 4 here in this one. He's created some good chances so far in this game. He's found little half openings to set his teammates up, including that one for Speedy Williams right at the end of the first half.
He's been extremely busy so far and keeping the defense honest, forcing them to stay uncomfortable, and also keeping that left back deeper on the pitch and not able to join into the attack for the Richmond side. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to neutralize those players and force them to have to adjust to your game as opposed to you having to track back and chase him all game long.
Well, a great opportunity in the opening minutes of this. Swing. Finally cleared. An injury back behind the play, but Heath, we see why New York, they've dominated play and almost a simple mistake on the back line, and they're trailing 1-0. They're walking a tightrope here. I'm sure Coach Wolnick would be happy to get off of.
Yeah, they don't want to play that sort of game for the second 45 minutes. But again, that goes to the fact that they don't have the same back line week in and week out, and that makes it hard, and it's a new challenge every single week to gel and mold as a group to say, like, do you have that guy who's aggressive every time on a set piece that you know he's going to follow through and clear that ball out? Or is everybody looking to that next guy wondering, is he going to make that play?
And we saw a mistake from Gideon Ba leading to the game-winning goal for the Charlotte Independence here at home. As Umbai and Adams are able to strip the ball off of, looked like Owusu there. Etienne Jr.'s got options in front of him. Can New York take advantage of Richmond maybe getting caught out in transition? Pleva with the cross played in. Allen knocks it down. Saved by Turner. And it looks like Allen's going to get called off sides as Umbai was sitting on the verge of potentially his first goal. Just off sides, but the best look of the game here for New York.
Absolutely. You saw Etienne. He was patient and allowed Conrad Pleva to get up the field, find that space behind the back line. You see an outside midfielder cutting in to draw. Fleming's cutting in from the outside to open up that space for him to get behind. He puts in a great ball, but fortunately the offside is called.
So free kick. Yeah, free kick coming here. New York looked like almost getting an opportunity. Adams lays it back. They're an odd team to talk about. In conversation with Coach Wolnick early on, he said, we want other teams to have the ball. It gives us offensive opportunities because of the way they high press. As Pleva plays the cross in, Fleming's able to get it to come down under him. He slips, and Troyer finally clears. So it's a unique style, and I think maybe it's hurt them at home here. because teams come in and they have to defend against the opponent.
Absolutely. You're starting to see more and more teams try to line up like that and say, you know, we don't care about the possession game. We don't care about playing the most beautiful style. We want you to feel like you're comfortable playing and force those turnovers high up the pitch, and then create that in turn creates good opportunities for the other team.
And we've seen the Richmond kickers with 2 or 3 phenomenal counterattacks off turnovers so far in this game as Etienne Jr.'s cross goes over the end line and out of bounds. One of the things we've talked about a little bit so far in this game is the fullbacks getting up the field and giving some width. We got a tweet from Brendan Joe on Twitter, and he asked, as a fullback, what do you look for when you're making the decision of whether or not to jump into the attack or sit back as the game goes along?
Well, as you can see so far in the match, Red Bulls have controlled the possession side of the game. So it's about timing. It's about knowing that if I leave this giant gap behind, can I trust the guy who's on the ball to find me or find that next right pass? Or knowing that, okay, we're counterattacking, we're pushing up the field, this guy's going to take a risk. So if I leave that space behind me, are we going to be punished for it? It's a timing thing of knowing who has the ball in front of you and kind of what the game is showing you.
New York has sent their fullbacks quite a lot so far in this game to push them up the field. So far, Richmond hasn't been able to take full advantage of it. We apologize for any technical audio difficulties you may be having. A few technical difficulties that we are working through. Our fantastic team, headed by our fearless leader, Paul Hawkins. Fleming's able to get possession on the far side, and it hits off both his feet and goes out of bounds for a corner kick. But we're starting to see a couple gaps in the opening minutes of this second half for New York.
You could see from the very start, Richmond was sitting back on the top of their box, and now they're starting to sit deeper and deeper. They're vulnerable on the counterattack. Maybe fatigue is starting to come into play a little bit here.
Coach Wolenek, he won't be fatigued, having a Red Bull down there on the sideline. He's got his team playing with some energy coming out of halftime.
Listen, Red Bull will do that for you. That'll get you going, get the team moving, pumped up.
We mainline Heath with 1 or 2 before every broadcast.
I feel like if I was a manager, though, I'd probably not want a Red Bull before games. I'd be a little too nervous, a little too antsy.
As Allen switches the field, I'm going to ask you about this in one quick second. Etienne Jr. puts the cross in over the head of a bong, and it rolls out of bounds. You have friends that have moved from playing to coaching. Coach Wolenek, a guy who went straight from one side to the other. What have they talked about that transition of what it's like? I mean, it's got to be frustrating that you always suit up, and now it's different where you have to convey your emotion or your ideas to other players.
It's extremely difficult. It's easy to have all the knowledge in your head, but to be able to deliver that in an efficient way to your players is always the challenge. I've seen a lot of coaches throughout the years who have a ton of knowledge but don't have that ability to communicate or explain things in a way to where your players can pick that stuff up on the fly. And Wolenek's been a great example of a guy who's transitioned into these next ranks, but it is a huge transition. It is a big difference, especially in the way that you approach or prepare instead of preparing for yourself or getting ready for a match yourself or saying, as long as I do my job, I'm contributing to the team. You now have so many more responsibilities.
And we've talked about how maybe perfect it's been for him as a player. Moore puts it over the top. The battle between Yeisley and Long. Long able to finally knock it away. Wolenek, a guy who it wasn't easy for him professionally. He went from MLS down to, at the time, the A-League and USL, and then back up to MLS, bounced around a little. For a guy like that to be the example for these young players, I think has been a very unique opportunity to learn that it's not a straight line from here to a World Cup spot, but there's a lot of different ways to be successful.
And those are typically the guys who tend to make better coaches and managers in a club. They've been through the trenches of it all. They've started from
an opportunity here on the far side for Fernando trying to find a shot. Plays it back to Owusu, and it's blasted over the top.
But they started from humble beginnings. They've grinded it out through their career, and they've been forced to understand the game better than a guy who can rely on certain natural abilities that maybe John Wolenek wasn't able to. So he's a perfect example of a guy who's willing to understand and learn the game and has gone about that throughout his playing career now as a manager.
Ryan Meir to take this kick. Heath, in danger of putting you on the spot. Is there one manager in your career that has always stood out as the best manager you've ever played for, or is that too dangerous to have you offend every other manager you've ever played for?
Actually, the best coach I ever had was Clive Charles, former Portland Timbers legend at the University of Portland. He's my college coach, but he had the best ability to deliver a message. He was also a man manager, which I know Jesse Marsh has gotten a lot of credit for. Robin Fraser had
Nicely with the shot over the top as Richmond kickers continue to get opportunities here in the second half, showing a few flashes. And their first two substitutes of the game coming up in Brian Ownby off the bench, as well as Lucas Paulini, the Argentine, who played his college soccer at VCU like we talked about before in that Richmond area. Ownby, a player we thought would start in this one. Iwamura, the leading scorer for this squad, goes off. And Owusu as well, who came on in the first half as a substitute for an injured Michael Callahan, and now gets substituted in the second half in place of Pellegrini. You were saying, though, Heath?
Well, Robin Fraser was a good example of a guy who could deliver a message accurately. There's so many different aspects that go into being a good coach that are different than being a player, because a player can excel in so many individual ways, but a coach has to truly be selfless and understand so many different psychological aspects of the game, along with just raw ability to coach soccer.
Mirror blasted long. So Lee Kalishaw has pulled some strings. He's made 3 substitutions so far in this game. Coach Wolenek still sitting on his full deck. Remember, of course, 5 substitutions per team in USL play. As this cross comes in, Abong taps it down and wide of that far post. Once again, Conrad Pleva from right back whips in a ball, and New York inches away from their opening goal of this game.
Conrad Pleva has been my man of the match so far, getting forward. He's getting behind the back line. He's forcing that midfielder to have to track him back, and he's putting in fantastic balls. Abong is going to wish he had that chance back again. Hit off the wrong part of the bottom of his foot. Just had to tap it anywhere, but unfortunately, it's still 0-0.
So Brandon Allen a chance. He was an inch offside a few minutes ago that Matt Turner made a save on, and that one from Abong just wide of the far post. On the flip side, Richmond had 2 good looks over the past 5 minutes, so these opening 10 or so minutes of this second half have been lively both ways. Looks like both these teams coming out of the locker room maybe looking for a victory here in this second 45. Bilyeu just wide of Abong. He's able to chase it down and keep it alive. One-on-one with Mishu on the far side. Not much support there for the young Cameroonian international. And he turns it over to Mishu. And similar to what we saw in the first half a little bit when he was one-on-one with Robinson, Abong not able to just hold up the play and allow his teammates to come and help him. Brandon Allen's going to get called for the foul there on Schreier.
Yeah, so in the corner, he's again in a position where the guy stood him up. He doesn't have any momentum. He's got nowhere to go. Come back with the ball, find a teammate, keep that ball moving. Because that window of opportunity to go at a guy or hold that ball in the corner, it closes so fast, and that's something he's going to have to learn as his career continues.
Turner will take the goal kick. Richmond kickers, I said, return home for a Wednesday Open Cup match, as well as a home match next week on the 21st that you can head out to if you are in the Richmond area. New York heads to FC Montreal next week, a 3 p.m. match, and then come home for that double header at 10 p.m. Eastern time against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds as Aguilar puts this cross in low. The clearance stays inbound. And finally pushed away by Long. New York all 11 back to defend, so nothing to counter through as Tyler Adams tries to close it down quickly. And if you didn't know before, he's young, but he's fast. Tyler Adams closing down space pretty quick.
You did say earlier, though, that he's, they've started putting him in that holding midfield position, and he looks so comfortable there. He's calm on the ball. He sees the game. You always see him, for a young guy at that age, to be always looking over his shoulders to see what's around him and have space is rare.
Aguilar trying to get to the end line. Pleva stands him up. It goes out for a corner kick. I think it's something a lot of people, when they watch him play, I don't think many people know his age when you see him out there on the field.
Absolutely not, and that's all credit to this academy system of being able to recognize a guy and say, where is he going to be best, and start putting him into that position.
Aguilar takes it short. Puts the cross in on the near post. Ryan Mira out. Handles it very calmly. And then he looks to punt it long down the right side. The early distribution towards Etienne Jr. One-on-one here with Asante. Great battle between these two. Etienne's trying to not get called for a foul, and he's able to win at least the throw-in. Over there on the far side, good work from the young Haitian attacker to get his team possession.
And it's another great look from Ryan Mara to try to spring out a counter and take that chance. It wasn't the best ball off of his foot, but they've now drawn a foul, or it looks maybe like it's the throw-in in a deep position, but it's a good look.
Yeah, and Pleva looks to take the throw in. Getting instructions, I think, on a free kick from the bench, but eventually cleared up. Paulini with the crunching tackle there on a bong. Troyer looking to spark the counter early up towards the feet of Ownby. Ownby, a goal and 2 assists so far this season. Now a chance to come off the bench in this one, just his second substitute appearance of the year, and try and spark his team to what would be a fantastic road win. They've defended comfortably at times with numbers, not a lot of opportunity to attack. But now Richmond's starting to put on some offensive pressure here as the second half wears on. Miguel Aguilar, a player that a lot of people around U.S. soccer circles have been excited about, has been a part of that. Gorgeous ball through. Cross-played in and cleared by Pleva. What a through ball, though, there from Richmond.
Fantastic through ball. That's one of the things about a guy playing at the outside back position like Bilyu is that sometimes you get caught cheating out wide a little bit, and a guy who's good on the ball can slip that in behind you and create something dangerous. So you always have to be aware and cover that inside to out first.
A lot of contact on that play. A foul eventually called against New York on the top of the box. So this is a huge opportunity for Richmond kickers. You can become a fan of the USL on Facebook for exclusive league news and interactive content. It's Miguel Aguilar standing over this one. The alumni of San Francisco University, as well as Samuel Asante. Well, that looks like it might be more of a ploy. Aguilar and him speaking just over the ball, waiting for an opportunity to take it. Looks like Aguilar might go short with it. I think there's a complaint right now about the distance of New York Red Bulls' 2 player. Here in the 63rd minute, Richmond kickers trying to take the lead. Chip to the far post. Hugh Roberts goes to the ground, and it rolls out for a goal kick.
It's a little bit, Hugh Roberts looks like he's flopping a little bit in the box there. I don't think that I'm calling that. If I'm the referee, I'm giving him a warning. Yes, there's contact there, but the ball was nowhere near him and kind of started just wiggling in the air.
Now, if you're a teammate on Richmond, does that feel like a wasted opportunity? I mean, set piece 20 yards out from the side of the box.
It's a little bit too clever. You're that close, give it a go on frame. Maybe they don't have that exact guy that can execute that, but it does when you're 20 yards out at this point in the game. It does feel kind of wasted, right?
Take a rip. Well, New York was able to avoid any problems there. We still sit at 0-0. Brandon Allen was offside. Otherwise, Hugh Roberts was in trouble, had a hand on the shirt as Allen turned the corner in the box, but offside on the beginning of the play called. These New York attackers have walked that tightrope. Abong's been called offside on a couple big plays, Allen as well. Is that what you want, though? Because the one time they're onside it works? Or would you like them to be just a little bit better at it?
Of course you want them to be better at it, but if a guy's willing to walk that line, that offside line all game long, it just takes that center back or outside back that one time that he says, you know what, he's not going to make this run. And before you know it, that flag is down and he's going alone to goal.
Offside on the other side this time on Brian Ownby, taken by the Houston Dynamo in the supplemental draft in Major League Soccer. Spent a long time in Houston in his career. Brian Ownby, taken in 2012 as this ball gets crossed in. Ended up making 29 MLS appearances before heading home, a native of Richmond, Virginia, and eventually ending up with the Kickers. You can follow at USL on Twitter to keep up with all of the live action during the 2016 season. And we've already taken 1 or 2 questions from Twitter, so feel free. NYVRIC. Keep tweeting at us. You can tweet at Heath Pierce as well. He actually doesn't watch the game. He just sits on his phone in the booth. It's a professional.
Yeah. I wish that I could have finished my career at home, but fortunately, my at home doesn't have a team. So,
what's the NPSL, PDL, nothing?
We had a team in California called Stanislaus County Cruisers. They played below what was then called the A-League, and one level below that, they played in the Open Cups. I remember they used to play against the San Jose Clash back in those days, but unfortunately, lack of resources in my humble California town closed those doors to a semi-professional or professional franchise.
A rags to riches story. Heath Pierce, the bootstraps from California all the way to the mean streets of Sweden.
Yeah, I had the opportunities. Obviously there's good youth soccer there, but it would be even better if we had something like a Richmond Kickers.
Well, it's amazing. 29 teams in USL. It's going to expand next year. Nashville's already on the docket. Reno's on the docket. Major League Soccer at 20 teams. They're expanding to, 37 teams or something over the next 5 years. It's been a constant process, and there's so many professional opportunities for players. Brandon Allen, one of them, homegrown player for New York Red Bull out of Georgetown University. 3 goals so far this season. A little dejected there coming off. Didn't get one this game. Had a couple half chances. You see Coach Wolenek taking him over to the side. What's he going to be saying to Brandon Allen after a performance like this?
Tell him to keep his head up. There's going to be more opportunities for him to stay busy, and that he's really just got to find a way to capitalize on the opportunities that he has and find perhaps a few more ways to be more impactful in the minutes that he plays.
Allen, 3 goals in his first 3 career professional soccer games after setting the scoring record at Georgetown University. A dry spell since then, and Coach Wolenek talking to him, trying to help him get better. Stefano Bonomo is the one who comes off the bench, though. So he's able to keep his feet, get it away from Hugh Roberts, played to the top of the box. Shot comes in off the post, cleared away, and finally into the back of the net. Anatol Abong with his 3rd goal of the season. A deflection and finally put home as New York Red Bull 2 take the lead 1-0 here in the 68th minute.
It's a great play from Bonomo. If I'm a guy coming in wanting to get more playing time, I'm trying to make an impact. He gets that ball, wins it defensively, lays it off. Again, we see a post, and Anatol Abong, right place at the right time, doing what a striker does and finishing off that chance.
And Bonomo plays through a little bit of contact, able to come away with it. See Flemings calls off Abong, and then Abong slips, but goal-scoring touch. He's able to get into the back of the net. Anyway, New York Red Bull 2, a few flashes. It looked like they were getting closer and closer to a goal, but finally able to get the breakthrough here.
And that's a great change by Coach Wolenek to put in Bonomo, and automatically has a spark. He's got that high energy. He makes that tackle, that play, and then to finish it off with a good ball to the top of the box. If I'm the coach, I'm kind of standing down there a little more like, just a normal Saturday for me, tactical genius, making the changes I have to make an impact on the game.
Bonomo sets up the goal on probably his 3rd touch of the game. Coach Wolenek on his way, probably to coach the Argentine national team in the Copa America competition after a move like that. Hugh Roberts, and it looks like a long throw coming. Flicked on at the near post and headed away by Speedy Williams and out for a corner kick. Lee Calishaw's made 2 or 3 subs already himself. One of the big ones, Brian Ownby, coming on. We'll see if they can make a difference. It looks like Tim Schmoll, the 6'6" mountain out of Switzerland, is getting ready to come on for New York Red Bull too, but he'll have to wait till after this set piece. Paulini, the near post, headed away by Bonomo. Mishu, no pressure on him, is able to keep it in. The New York Red Bull 2, defensive third. Ownby floats it in. Flicked on at the far side and down into the ground, and Ryan Meara able to make the save.
Like we said earlier in the game, Yaisley's a busy guy. He's a big body. He's physically strong, and he's going to try to find those gaps in there. It's a good ball in. He's fighting for space, gets a chance, but Ryan Meara holds his ground, reacts accordingly. And this is where this young squad has to be better. They're in a vulnerable place. They just scored a goal. Don't flip that switch off.
Etienne Jr. trying to keep his team revving forward, but Mishu makes the tackle. And we said on the top of the broadcast, New York Red Bull 2, 0 goals conceded in the second half so far this season. But a few of those games have been games where New York was comfortably ahead. This one, though, 1-0. Richmond has shown 4 or 5 times here in the second half that they are inches away from a goal, and it's not going to be an easy one for New York to close out.
Absolutely not. It's going to be a challenge. They're going to have to grind this one out. Richmond are coming into this game hoping to get a road win, and they're not going to give up here. They obviously missed out on points in Toronto earlier in the week, and here they are fighting out, and they got a chance there, but fortunately, Ryan Meara made the easy save that he needed to make.
Czech Umbai, I forgot to mention, was down on the ground when New York scored, back behind the midfield line. Seems like he picked up a little bit of an injury. Been down a couple times so far in this game, so Tim Schmoll does finally check in. You know, well, all these players are very unique. A lot of times there are parts of them that are very similar. Tim Schmoll, 6'6", out of Switzerland, played at Harvard. Nothing casual about a player like that. He played with the New York Red Bull the New York Red Bull under-23 squad last summer, getting his first full professional opportunity now with the New York Red Bull 2 team. You ever play against a guy that big?
I played with a few tall guys. I played against guys that size before, but never had the chance to get elbowed in the face every day in training by somebody that tall.
Makes you appreciate the fine things.
Obviously, his strength is his size, and if you can turn a guy like that into a high-quality defender as well, there's no limit to what he can accomplish.
Troyer able to keep Flemings off the ball there. Braden Troyer's been under a ton of pressure at that left back spot for Richmond. Pushed wide to Ownby. It would have been fun to watch. Last year, Adam Bedell was on this Richmond team. He stands, I think, at 6'10". So to watch him and Schmoll match up would have been a little unique. Pleva able to make the tackle. Etienne Jr. keeps it alive. So with about 20 minutes left to play in this one, the Richmond kickers now for the first time all game have to go on the attack a little bit. Do you throw numbers forward? Do you wait a little bit? Do you see if maybe you can still get something on the counter even though New York already has the goal?
They're going to have to start taking chances, but I trust in the abilities of Tyler Adams, Speedy Williams to kind of hold those forwards down. If an outside back is up high, to shift over and fill into those spaces. But you also have to be aware as an outside back for the Red Bull 2s right now. Pick and choose your moments to go forward. You know, make sure Conrad Pleva, when he is going into the attack, it's a time where he's going to get the ball and not just leave these giant holes behind him where Richmond are going to be looking to exploit over the next half hour or so, 20 minutes.
New York getting ready to make another sub. Down on the sideline, looks like the holding midfielder Dan Metzger is going to come on. Help New York try and see out this 1-0 lead. Schmoll now in at that right center back position alongside Aaron Long. Back to the feet of Meara. New York's not going to be in much of a hurry, now outscoring their opponents over the course of the season 8-0 in the second half. Pleva losing out to Troyer. Now as a player, standing next to you. You're a tall guy compared to me. I don't know.
No one's ever said that to me
That's
before.
what I'm going to say.
Oh, man, I feel great now.
Is
Go
that-
ahead with your question.
Tall Vaughn floats it in. When a guy's, has the natural size, 6'5", 6'6", mentally, are you just thinking, I have no chance? As Flemings comes into the box here and his shot's blocked. I mean, when you go up in the air against a guy like that, what do you have to do?
Well, I always prided myself on being able to win the ball in the air, especially when I became a center back later in my career. I was typically a lot smaller than strikers or players that I was playing against.
Adams able to come over and clean that up.
And for me, it was just about timing. If you could get up in the air before him, if you could use his size against him to where you could jump up, kind of push off him, lean him, keep him off balance, and force him to kind of be stuck on the ground, you can win a lot of balls. Having said that, I lost a lot of headers to some guys that were a foot taller than me.
The Kenny Coopers of the world going up and winning against you.
That's a big boy. That is a big boy, too.
Don't forget, you can follow @Nike Soccer on Twitter, the official partner of the USL, or Nike.com/soccer as well. Get yourself geared up, swagged out for the summer. If you're like me and you're going to be sweating on the subway or in your car, that's the necessities. Bilyeu able to do enough defensive work for Long to come over and help out and clean up. Richmond still 2 potential subs to come. New York using their second of 5. Dan Metzger, New York Red Bull Academy player, coming on in place of Speedy Williams. He returned this season after ACL surgery last July. What a moment it's been for him. Got the game-winning goal down in Wilmington, his first professional goal. And he's a player that a lot of guys around this New York Red Bull franchise really like.
Yeah, a guy like that who can come back from an injury shows an ability in a fight in itself, right? And now you want to see him stay healthy. You want to see what he's really made of. But just to go through that and make a comeback and now be back to the level that you were at before is worth giving credit to.
So the sun beginning to set out here in Harrison, New Jersey. David Goss and Heath Pierce on the call with you. At NewYorkRedBulls.com, we'll be bringing you every home New York Red Bull 2 match live in HD. You can catch every match across the season if you go to USLsoccer.com, as well as follow any news and notes that might be happening. With 29 teams, there's pretty much games happening at all times. Constant level of games. We mentioned Richmond Kickers TFC playing 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday. So if you're in Toronto and you want to ditch work at lunch and catch like an hour or two of soccer, it would have been a pretty good setup for you. Salt Lake City and Rio Grande Valley last night playing to a 1-1 tie. As this cross goes all the way through the box. Hugh Roberts on the far side trying to find a way to turn and get across, and he gets an angle on Schmoll. Gets into the box, goes down to the ground for the second time in this half, and no call once again.
It looked like he got a touch there, and the ref was in a great position to be able to make that call, so I'm going to, at least for the meantime, believe he got it right.
You've always been one that really believes in that.
Yeah, I trust in the referees so much that if, I assume they get it right every time. No, he was in a good position there. If I was that attacker, I probably would have been claiming something different, but.
Yeah, Roberts wanting the call, but none made. Hugh Roberts has had a long game, to say the least. He's had a lot of work to do. He got tangled up with Bonomo on the start of the New York goal. He's had a few opportunities in the box. And a foul's going to go against Schmoll here. Taking a piece of Ownby on the way through, and Ownby looks to take it quickly as Mira's out of goal. But that fatal mistake, Heath, for the defender to feel the need to have to push a player over to protect their goalkeeper coming out, as it's taken short. Now Adams clears it, and the referee not fooled on that one.
It's a professional foul. He knows that there's only so much risk in creating that foul. Maybe he draws a yellow card, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it prevents any sort of disastrous situation that could come from that guy getting behind the back line.
Aguilar goes skiing through 3 defenders. Puts in the left-footed cross, cleared away by Long. Adams tries to get it out of the box. And the shot across the face of goal and almost falling on the far side to Fernando. A dangerous moment there for New York as that ball bounced around the box. Schmoll clears it, but the pressure's starting to be put on. Troyer coming forward, gets it to Aguilar. Bonomo back to help defensively, and it goes through the whole box and out to Fernando on the far side. The young Brazilian gonna find some space to shoot, gets an angle, and just wide of the far post, as well as a diving, it looked like Jason Yeasley on that far side. Of course, all USL matches are available live, free, and in HD on YouTube, and of course, on NewYorkRedBulls.com. Heath, Richmond has clearly pushed some numbers forward to try and get this goal, and this is as close as they've been.
Yeah, he just drives inside on his left foot, puts it across. Yeasley's opportunistic on the back post, doing whatever he can to get to the ball, but it's just a little bit too far away from him.
We haven't seen Fernando do much offensively, really. A young Brazilian attacker out of the Flamengo Academy. A player we were hoping to see some sparks and fireworks from. Just hasn't gotten a lot of touches offensively as this team has sat back disciplined and defensively for a lot of this game. Aguilar goes up. Metzger wins the header out of bounds, quickly taken down the line and poked away by Pleva.
You know, and that's one of the risks you run when you start making changes in a match to guys up the spine of your team, right? You change a center midfielder, you change a center back, and now that team's starting to get a little bit of confidence. You have to trust in those players to lead and organize the same way as the guys that they've replaced. Yeah, sometimes when you make that many changes, it can be hard.
Both teams making subs at the holding midfield position. New York forced into a sub at center back as well. Metzger, a guy who's played with the US U23 squad. If he was healthy, you'd think he would have been part of that Olympic qualifying team, but eventually ended up falling to Colombia. A collision there. Paulini goes down in the collision with Adams. Comes away with the free kick.
From where we're standing, it's always tough to see a hit like that, and it's great to see those two players just jump up and kind of move on with the game again. Doesn't turn into a scrap. Two guys just incidental contact, just a little bit more on the aggressive side.
Long ball almost into the path of Etienne Jr. there. Have to quickly take in free kick. Richmond able to come back away with the ball. Ownby's been active since he's come off the bench. Looks like Etienne lost both of his shin guards. Making a run after that last ball. Mishu now to cross. Clip to the far post. Pleva heads it back to his own goalie, Mira. You seem impressed. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was impressive.
I don't know if it was on purpose, but it looked calm.
Yeah.
And if I'm that guy, I'm taking credit for it, even if it was an accident, because it shows like a level of calm.
Abong brings that ball down calmly. Bonomo with the early shot, and it flashes wide. Stefano Bonomo making an impact here off the bench late in this one.
He skied that one, but his willingness to get behind that back line and test the goalkeeper, I like that. And not only his willingness to go forward, but if you've seen so far in these last 15 minutes, he's been everywhere on the field. He's dropped back into the center midfield to cover for players. He's making plays deep in the half, and now he's also trying to contribute to the attack, which is exactly what you want from a sub coming in, to have that kind of energy and spark and lift the team up to another level.
Bonomo drafted by New York Red Bulls out of the University of California. Ended up going overseas, try his hand, a couple trials and short contracts with 3 or 4 teams really in a span of a few months before coming back last July and signing with New York Red Bulls 2. Had 3 goals in only 6 appearances as Etienne Jr.'s shot is blocked. Expected to be a big part of what this team was going to be built around this year. Has struggled for minutes at times at forward with the addition of the 7 homegrown players that New York signed, and Anatole Bong up top. 2 substitutes ready to come on for Richmond after this corner kick. Here, the 84th minute, so just 6 or 7 minutes left for the Richmond Kickers to try and get a result. Etienne now gets his shin guards back. They play short in the corner between him and Bonomo. Bonomo in a battle over there with Asante. And Asante eventually pokes it out for a throw-in. I don't know if everyone on New York knew that was coming because Schmoll and Long made the long run from center back all the way up the field.
There's still a little too much time to be taking it down to the corner flag at this point. And you're sending your center backs forward. You're not on the same page. That's where bad things can happen. So they need to make sure that they continue to kind of push the game forward for a few more minutes. And then if they're in the 89th, 90th minute, they want to take it to the corner flag, run out this game. That's great, but at least know that they have guys balanced in the back and cover defensively.
So Asante went off over the end line. He's the substitute, as well as Luke Mishu in place of Alex Lee and Sonny Jane. And we talked about the international experience a little bit. Alex Lee, a Guam international. Sonny Jane, a Lesotho international. So two players with that experience coming on the field. Jane out of the University of Maryland. He's a guy, a big name coming out of school, spent the last 2 years with Wilmington Hammerheads in USL. Richmond now rolling all their dice as Coach Kalishaw makes his final subs, brings in two players who can add to the attack and bring some fresh legs. As the clouds open up here, the sun starts to go away. Just about 5 minutes left in this one. Last game, Heath, I gave you a history fact. Question but fact. I have a geography one this time. Now that Sonny Jane is in, I can say it. Do you want me to give you clues first, or I'll just give it to you?
You could just give it to us. I need far more than 5 minutes to probably come up with a random thought on whatever it is you're about to tell me.
Cross played in, cleared up the near post. Well, I'm going to make you wait a little longer. As Jane tries to line up the shot, immediately off the bench, and his shot flashes wide. Sonny Jane, one of 5 brothers from Lesotho who came here, brought over and came to Louisville, actually, because a family friend, Thabane Sutu, is a goalkeeper coach there. He's now the goalkeeper coach for Louisville City. You can watch them, as well as New York Red Bulls too, on YouTube, live, free, and in HD throughout the season. But Lesotho is an enclave nation, which means it's a country that's completely landlocked in another country. It's completely surrounded by South Africa. I think there are like 5 others in the world. You only have 5 minutes. If I'd done this in the first half, I could have given you 45 minutes to think of another one. New York Red Bulls 2 picks up the free kick, so you don't have to guess.
Oh, so I'm supposed to tell you
don't
the other
have
4?
to, but if you do, you get bonus points.
Oh my gosh.
And bonus points includes, we will tally bonus points at the end of the season and see where they fall. Noah Powder's coming on now for New York. He'll come on in place of Derek Etienne Jr., another lively match for the young Haitian. He scored a goal last week. He comes off. He and Junior Flemings, constant threats out on the wing, floating infield as well. Another strong performance from him. And now Noah Powder, the Red Bull Academy player, who got 4 starts in the first 4 games of the season, then went away to train with the Trinidad and Tobago U20 team, and has been working his way back into the lineup since then. Ownby gets it to the feet. Paulini, Buenos Aires central midfielder, keeping the ball moving. Now down the left wing towards Ownby. He collides with Metzger, and it goes out in favor of New York.
Noah Powder's a guy that I've been wanting to see play more and more. He's for his age, he's so calm on the ball, and he sees the game so well, and he's got such an upside that I hope that he can start to find more minutes with the Red Bull 2s throughout their season.
Yeah, Powder, a local kid, captain of the U17 Trinidad and Tobago team in CONCACAF U17 qualifying. And as I said, going down the train with the U20s. Started, I said, 4 of the first 4 matches since Heath Pierce has come aboard, has yet to start Coincidence or not. Paulini standing over this one, an opportunity here for the Kickers. Trying to tie this game up. Well, they've defended for large parts of this game. They've had a few great goal-scoring chances. They have not been able to come away with anything so far. Turner blasted long. The collision on the far side. Still a chance now. Hugh Roberts moving from center back to center forward. Try and give this Kickers team an opportunity. Lee coming forward off the bench. The left foot across, played in, flicked on at the near post and in. The Richmond Kickers throw numbers forward, and in the final seconds of the second half, they tie it up with the New York Red Bulls 2. The 90th minute, and we are tied at 1-1.
You can tell how deep the Red Bulls are sitting back in that moment that they're in trouble. There needs to be more organization, and when that ball's that deep, you need to have somebody push out and put pressure on him, not just a 2v1 situation. And then the center backs in the box have to be looking around and putting players from their team in good defensive positions to make that play, and unfortunately they weren't there. There was too many guys open in the box.
Richmond Kickers concede in the 68th minute. They continue to fight over the course of the next 20 minutes and finally getting the breakthrough in the 90th to tie it up 1-1. They conceded late on the road against TFC 2 on Wednesday and couldn't find a late equalizer. You could see the energy and emotion off the bench for Richmond when they finally got that goal. Anatol Abang is down behind the play. We have entered stoppage time. The referee giving us a minimum of 3 minutes, although you'd have to think after that goal it's a little bit more. We mentioned, first of all, that New York hadn't conceded in the second half, so great job from Richmond to break that streak. But what it takes, the maturity to see out a win. We talked a little bit about maybe going to the corner too early a few minutes ago. New York not doing what they had to do to come away with the victory late in this home game.
Absolutely. You could tell that the defensive line started to drop back a little bit. They weren't as comfortable as they had been for larger parts of the game because they were now playing against probably a line of 4 players across that top level. And when that happens, you start to feel uncomfortable. You start to see everybody's matched up one-on-one, and you need to be able to handle the situation, especially as center backs, and pull a holding midfielder back deeper to take the guy so you can cover. And they weren't able to do that. They pushed their lines up. They not as high as they should have. They didn't put any pressure on that cross. Guy, at any level, if you give a guy that much time to put a cross in, he's going to punish you. And they were able to punish the Red Bull 2s for that.
Still a couple minutes left in this one as Abang went off holding his shoulder. He hasn't been substituted for yet. He is asking to come back on. New York Red Bull 2 now back even at 11 on 11, and Abang trying to come right in and take the shot off the sideline. Paulini plays it out. Adams now with some time. Can New York find a miracle stoppage time winner in this one, or will it be the Richmond Kickers with that 90th minute equalizer that'll leave the stadium the happier of the two? We are halfway through our second minute of a minimum of 3 of stoppage time. And Heath, you got to tip your hat to Richmond. The first half, they sat back, disciplined numbers, got into the locker room on the road, halftime, 0-0. Second half, they give up a goal. They're able to fight back, though, and are on the way now to what would be a huge road point.
They responded relatively quickly after giving up that first goal, and they've had a high-energy presence since then, and they kept believing in that. And as cliche as that sounds, that's where their experience comes in. They've got so many guys that have played in these matches and have so much experience in this league that they know that we might get one more chance today, and if we finish that, we can leave here with a point. And they were able to do that, and it's all credit to them for continuing to move forward.
And that'll be it. So it's going to be 1-1 final. Anatol Abang in the 68th minute. And the Richmond Kickers tying it up in the 90th minute here at Red Bull Arena. Justin Bilyeu and Conrad Pleva, the New York Red Bull fullbacks, have pushed up a lot, created chances. Let's look at the match highlights, Heath. There was a lot of shots in the first half for New York, but they finally get the breakthrough through a substitute in the second half.
Bonomo comes on, high energy right away, big defensive stop. They get a shot off, hits the post. Abang does what Abang does, and that's stay in an offensive position poach the goal, gets a fortunate bounce, slips on the shot, but, you know, that's a striker's touch to finish that off and go up 1-0.
Yeah, New York, a lot of chances in the first half to finally get the breakthrough there, but you see how deep they defend, and Richmond kickers take advantage here in the 90th minute. The flick on at the near post, Brian Ownby off the bench as well. Another substitute making an impact on the other side, gets the goal, and it finishes 1-1 here. So the Richmond kickers, they end this road trip now 0-1-1. New York still only one home win on the season, but 3 road victories. They head to Montreal next week. Don't forget, in 2 weeks, a soccer doubleheader here. TFC versus New York Red Bulls at 7 p.m. and Pittsburgh Riverhounds against New York Red Bulls 2 at 10 p.m. on May 28th. I think, Heath, for both these teams, some positives and some negatives coming out of this one. You thought Conrad Pleva, I think, was a bright spot for New York over the course of this 90 minutes.
Absolutely. Obviously, for the Richmond kickers, getting a point, that's enough. You don't have to go on the road and play some sort of beautiful or entertaining type of soccer. They came here, they got what they wanted out of it. Looking to the Red Bull 2s, Conrad Pleva's a bright spot for me. He got into the attack. He joined well. His timing getting forward was a positive. But again, like I said, you take a few of those players out of the spine of your team, those guys you rely on, and you're forcing guys who maybe don't have that many minutes to organize and hold out this result, and unfortunately, they weren't able to do that.
The New York Red Bull 2 will try and get it done next week at FC Montreal. And on the flip side, Richmond heads into U.S. Open Cup play off a promising road 1-1 draw. Well, for myself, David Goss, Heath Pierce, Paul Hawkins, and everyone else here at New York Red Bulls 2, we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. Stick to NewYorkRedBulls.com for all your news and notes. The New York Red Bulls 2, as well as USLSoccer.com. And enjoy your weekend.